Bruce Lee pushed open the door to Park's dry cleaning, a bell chiming softly overhead. The shop was small and cramped, wedged between a Chinese restaurant and a watch repair store in a tired strip mall on the edge of Chinatown. The air smelled of chemical solvents and steam. Behind the counter, an elderly Korean woman was bent over an ironing board, pressing a white shirt with shaking hands. What Bruce Lee witnessed in the next 5 minutes would lead him to do something he rarely did: intervene in a family's private business. And what happened over the following 6 months would save a woman's life and repair a relationship that had been broken for years. This is the story of Mrs. Park, her son David, and the day Bruce Lee refused to mind his own business. It was late summer 1973. Bruce Lee had just finished filming a fight sequence for Enter the Dragon, and several of the costume pieces needed professional cleaning before the next day's shoot. His usual dry cleaner was closed for renovations, so his assistant had recommended Park, a small family-owned place that had been serving the neighborhood for over a decade. The elderly woman looked up when he entered, her eyes widening slightly with recognition. But she didn't say anything, just gave a small nod and returned to her ironing. Her hands trembled as she worked, and Bruce Lee noticed she had to pause every few seconds to catch her breath. She looked unwell, pale skin, dark circles under her eyes, a persistent cough that she tried to suppress. "Excuse me," Bruce Lee said politely in English, then repeated in Korean, one of several languages he'd picked up over the years. "Do you accept same-day service?" The woman's face showed surprise at hearing her native language. Yes, she replied in Korean, then switched to heavily accented English. "What you need?" Bruce Lee held up the garment bag. "These costumes need cleaning. I can pick them up tomorrow?" "Tomorrow, yes, no problem." She reached for a clipboard, her hand shaking so badly that she almost dropped it. That's when Bruce Lee heard the voice from the back room, loud, harsh, impatient. "Mom, what's taking so long? We have 3 more orders to finish before 5. A man emerged from behind a curtain of hanging plastic. He was in his early 30s, Korean American, wearing jeans and a t-shirt stained with sweat and cleaning chemical. His face was tight with stress and irritation. When he saw Bruce Lee, his expression changed immediately to forced politeness. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know we had a customer." He glanced at his mother, and Bruce Lee saw the irritation return to his eyes. "Mom, I told you to call me when someone comes in. You're too slow with the paperwork." The elderly woman's face flushed with shame. "I'm sorry," she whispered in Korean. "I can do it." "No, you can't," the man interrupted in English, clearly wanting the customer to understand that he was in charge. "You can barely write anymore. Just go back to the ironing." He turned to Bruce Lee with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm David Park. I'll take care of you. What do you need?" Bruce Lee felt a coldness settling in his chest. He recognized the tone in David's voice, the particular cruelty that comes from familiarity, from taking someone for granted, from years of accumulated resentment. He'd heard it before, seen it before, in families where respect had eroded into contempt. "Your mother was helping me," Bruce Lee said quietly. "She's doing fine." David's smile tightened. "My mother is 72 years old and can barely see. I appreciate your patience, but I can handle this much faster." Mrs. Park had returned to her ironing, her head down, her shoulders curved inward as if trying to make herself smaller. The shirt she was pressing had a wrinkle that she kept going over and over, her hands shaking. David took the garment bag from Bruce Lee and began filling out the paperwork efficiently. "These are nice costume pieces? You an actor or something?" "Something like that," Bruce Lee replied, his eyes on Mrs. Park. She was coughing again, trying to muffle it, her whole body shaking with the effort. "Mom!" David snapped without looking up. "If you're gonna cough like that, go to the back. You're going to scare away customer." Mrs. Park flinched as if she'd been slapped. She set down the iron carefully and shuffled toward the back room, moving slowly, painfully. Bruce Lee watched her go, noting how she held onto the counter for support, how every step seemed to cost her. David finished the paperwork. "Okay, Mr. Lee, wait." Bruce Lee, the actor, recognition dawned. "Oh wow, the Green Hornet. My kids love that show." "How old are your children?" Bruce Lee asked. 7 and 5. "Boys, they're obsessed with Kung Fu." David smiled, more genuine now. "Maybe you could sign something for them?" "Maybe," Bruce Lee said. "Tell me, David, how long has your mother been coughing like that?" The question caught David off guard. "What? Oh, I don't know. A few weeks, probably just a cold. She's always getting sick." "Have you taken her to a doctor?" David's expression shifted, becoming defensive. "She doesn't like doctors. She's old school, you know? Thinks everything can be cured with ginseng tea and rest." "And you accept that?" "Look, Mr. Lee, I appreciate your concern, but my mother she's stubborn. I can't force her to go to a doctor if she doesn't want to. Bruce Lee looked at David for a long moment. Can I ask you something personal? David hesitated, then shrugged. Sure, I guess. Do you love your mother? The question hung in the air. David's face went through several expressions: surprise, indignation, confusion. What kind of question is that? Of course I love her. She's my mother. Then why do you speak to her the way you do? David's face reddened. Excuse me? The way you spoke to her just now. You're too slow. Go to the back. Like she's an employee who's not performing well, not your mother. I don't think that's any of your business, David said, his voice tight. You're right, Bruce Lee agreed. It's not, but I'm making it my business. David crossed his arm. And why would you do that? Bruce Lee set his hands flat on the counter. Because I made the same mistake you're making. And by the time I realized it, it was too late. David's anger wavered slightly. What mistake? My father worked very hard when I was young. He was in the Cantonese opera, traveled constantly, always busy. I was young, impatient, focused on myself. I thought he was invincible. I thought there would always be time to talk, time to understand each other, time to say the things that needed to be said. Bruce Lee paused. He died when I was 20, and all that time I thought I had, it never existed. David was quiet now, some of the defensiveness draining from his posture. Your mother is 72 years old, Bruce Lee continued. She has a cough that's lasted weeks. She can barely stand without support. She's lost weight. I can see it in her face. And you've been so busy being irritated with her that you haven't actually looked at her. She's just old, David started, but Bruce Lee cut him off. She's not just old. She's sick. And you're so angry at her for not being young and fast and perfect anymore that you can't see it. David's face had gone pale. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what it's like running this business, trying to keep everything together. You're right. I don't know your situation, but I know what I saw, and I know what I heard, and I know that if you don't take her to a doctor soon, you're going to spend the rest of your life wishing you had. There was a long silence. From the back room, they could hear Mrs. Park's muffled cough. David's hands were shaking now. What if it's something serious? Then you deal with it, Bruce Lee said. Together, but at least you'll know. At least you'll have tried. David sat down heavily on a stool behind the counter. He put his head in his hand. I've been such an asshole. Yes, Bruce Lee agreed, but you can stop being one. Right now. David looked up. How? Close the shop. Take your mother to the emergency room. Today. Right now. I can't just close. We have orders. The orders can wait. Your mother can't. David stared at Bruce Lee, then glanced toward the back room where his mother was. I don't think she'll go. She hates doctors. Then you convince her. You tell her that you're scared, that you need her to do this, not for herself, but for you, for your children, for everyone who needs her. Bruce Lee reached into his wallet and pulled out a business card. He wrote a name and number on the back. This is a friend of mine, Dr. James Chun. He's at Cedars-Sinai. I'll call ahead and tell him you're coming. He'll see her today. David took the card with trembling hand. Why are you doing this? You don't even know us. Because someone should have done it for me, Bruce Lee said. And they didn't. And I've spent the last 13 years missing my father and wishing I'd paid more attention when I had the chance. He picked up his receipt for the dry cleaning. I'll come back for the costumes in a few days. Take care of your mother, David, while you still can. Bruce Lee left the shop, but he didn't leave his concern there. That evening, he called Dr. Chun and explained the situation. Dr. Chun agreed to see Mrs. Park immediately if David could get her there. The next morning, Bruce Lee's phone rang at 6 a.m. It was David Park, his voice thick with emotion. They found something, David said. Dr. Chun did a chest x-ray. There's a mass in her lung. He thinks it's cancer. Early stage, he said, but definitely cancer. Bruce Lee closed his eyes. I'm sorry, David. He said if we'd waited another few months, it might have been too late, but because we caught it now, she has a good chance. Maybe 80% with surgery and treatment. That's good news. Mr. Lee, David's voice broke. I almost killed her with my impatience and my anger and my blindness. I looked at her every day and didn't see her. You see her now, Bruce Lee said. That's what matters. She goes in for surgery next week. Dr. Chun says she'll need 6 months of recovery. Maybe a year. I'm closing the shop. I'm gonna take care of her. Really take care of her. The business Bruce Lee started can wait, David interrupted. Like you said, she can't. Over the following months, Bruce Lee checked in regularly. He visited Mrs. Park in the hospital after her surgery, brought flowers, brought books in Korean, brought soup that Linda had made. Mrs. Park's English wasn't strong, but her gratitude transcended language barriers. She held Bruce Lee's hand and cried, thanking him over and over. David was there every time Bruce Lee visited. He'd transformed. The The irritation and impatience were gone, replaced by attentiveness and tenderness. He helped his mother walk the hospital corridor. He learned to change her bandages. He sat with her during the long chemotherapy sessions, holding her hand, reading to her, just being present. One day, about 3 months into Mrs. Park's treatment, David pulled Bruce Lee aside in the hospital cafeteria. "I need to tell you something," David said, "about why I was the way I was." Bruce Lee listened. "When my father died 5 years ago, I was angry. Angry at him for leaving, angry at the world, angry at God. And somehow that anger landed on my mom. She kept working at the shop even though she didn't have to. My siblings and I sent her money. She kept working these long hours, and I thought she was doing it to punish herself or to punish us, or I don't know what I thought." David stared at his coffee. "I wanted her to retire, to rest, to be a grandmother to my kids instead of a workaholic. And when she wouldn't, I got angrier. I blamed her for choosing work over family. I treated her like she was the problem. But she wasn't choosing work over family," Bruce Lee said quietly. "No, she was choosing purpose over emptiness. After my dad died, the shop was all she had left of him. They built it together. Every stain she removed, every shirt she pressed, it was a way of keeping him alive. And I was so busy being angry that she wouldn't do what I wanted that I never asked her what she needed." David wiped his eyes. "She told me last week, while we were sitting in the chemo room, she said, 'The shop is where I talk to your father. When I'm there, I'm not alone.' And I realized I'd been trying to take away the one thing that gave her comfort." Bruce Lee nodded. "What will you do now?" "When she's better, we're reopening the shop, but different this time. I'm getting proper help, hiring 2 part-time employees so mom only works 4 hours a day, and only if she wants to. I'm putting in air purifiers, better ventilation, ergonomic workstation. I'm making it a place where she can work without it killing her." "And the way you speak to her?" Bruce Lee asked. David smiled. A genuine smile. "I'm learning. Every day I'm learning. Yesterday I snapped at her about something, old habit, and she just looked at me. Didn't say anything, just looked. And I heard myself and I stopped and I apologized. Right there. I said, 'Mom, I'm sorry. That was wrong. You're not too slow. You're perfect exactly as you are.' What did she say?" "She cried. Then she told me she was proud of me. First time she said that since I was a kid." By December 1973, Mrs. Park was in remission. The surgery had been successful. The chemotherapy had worked. And Dr. Chun was cautiously optimistic. She'd lost a lot of weight and her hair was thin from the treatment, but her eyes were bright again and the cough was gone. The dry cleaning shop reopened in January 1974 with a new sign, Park and Son Dry Cleaning. Below that, in smaller letters, Family First. Bruce Lee came to the reopening. The shop had been renovated, brighter lighting, better ventilation, a comfortable chair near the counter where Mrs. Park could sit between customers. There were photos on the wall now, family photos, pictures of David's children, a black and white wedding photo of Mr. and Mrs. Park from 1945. Mrs. Park was behind the counter, but she was sitting, and she was smiling. When she saw Bruce Lee, she stood up carefully and came around to greet him. She took both his hands in hers and spoke in Korean. David translated. "She says you saved her life. She says you gave her more time with her grandchildren. She says you are a blessing." Bruce Lee shook his head. "I just pointed out what was already there. Your son did the hard work." David pulled a frame from behind the counter. It was a calligraphy piece, Korean characters beautifully brushed in black ink. "My mother made this for you. It says, 'The greatest strength is seeing what needs to be seen.'" Bruce Lee accepted it with a bow. "I'll treasure this." That evening, over dinner with Linda, Bruce Lee told her the whole story. "The hardest thing," he said, "is when you're so close to something that you can't see it anymore." David looked at his mother every single day and didn't see she was dying. Not because he didn't love her, but because he was looking through his anger instead of past. "But you saw it," Linda said. "I saw it because I'd lived it, because I know what it's like to miss the signs, to realize too late. With my father, I didn't get a second chance. David did. He was lucky." In February 1974, David brought his 2 sons to Bruce Lee's school. "They've been begging to meet you," he explained. "I told them you're the man who saved their grandmother." The boys, 7 and 5, were wide-eyed with excitement. Bruce Lee showed them some basic movements, taught them about balance and breathing, and then told them something they wouldn't fully understand until they were much older. "The strongest martial artist isn't the one who can defeat the most enemies," he said. "It's the one who can see when someone they love needs help and then actually helps them. Your father is that kind of strong. Remember that. Over the years, Bruce Lee would often use David's story when teaching. People think martial arts is about fighting, he'd tell his students. But the hardest battles aren't against other people. They're against our own blindness, our own pride, our own inability to see what's right in front of us. Mrs. Park lived until 1989, 15 years beyond her diagnosis. She got to see her grandchildren graduate high school, got to meet her first great-grandchild, got to grow old in a way she'd almost been denied. At her funeral, David told the story publicly for the first time. "Bruce Lee saved my mother's life," he said, "but he saved mine too. He taught me that being a good son means paying attention. It means seeing your parents not as they used to be, or as you wish they were, but as they are right now in this moment, with all their needs and their dignity and their humanity." He held up a photo of Bruce Lee with Mrs. Park, taken at the shop reopening. This man could have just picked up his dry cleaning and left. Instead, he cared enough to intervene. He cared enough to tell me a truth I didn't want to hear. And because he did, I got 15 more years with my mother. 15 years of seeing her, really seeing her. David's voice broke. I wish I could thank him. I wish I could tell him that what he did, that 5-minute conversation in my shop, it rippled out through my entire life. I'm a better father because of him, a better husband, a better man. He looked at his own sons, now grown men with families of their own. Pay attention to the people you love. Really look at them, see them, because the greatest tragedy isn't death. It's not seeing someone until it's too late to tell them you saw them at all. Today, Park & Son is still in business, now run by David's older son. The calligraphy piece Mrs. Park made for Bruce Lee hangs in the shop, along with the photo from the reopening. Below it is a small plaque, in memory of Bruce Lee, who taught us that true strength is seeing what needs to be seen. The lesson Bruce Lee taught that day in a small dry cleaning shop wasn't about martial art. It wasn't about fighting or winning or being the strongest. It was about paying attention, about looking at the people right in front of you and actually seeing them, their pain, their struggles, their unspoken needs. David had been so busy being frustrated with who his mother had become that he couldn't see she was disappearing. Bruce Lee's intervention gave him a second chance. Not everyone gets that. Not everyone has someone willing to speak the uncomfortable truth. If this story moved you, look at the people in your life. Your parents, your siblings, your children, your friends. Are you seeing them? Really seeing them? Or are you looking through a fog of expectations and frustrations and old patterns? Pay attention. Ask questions. Notice the small changes, the persistent cough, the weight loss, the sadness in their eyes. Because the time you have with them isn't infinite. It just feels that way until suddenly it isn't. Bruce Lee knew this. He'd learned it the hard way with his own father. And because he'd learned it, he could teach it to others. That's what made him truly great. Not his skill in combat, but his willingness to use his voice to help people see what they were missing. Mrs. Park got 15 extra years because one man cared enough to say something. How many people in your life need someone to see them? How many are waiting for someone to notice? Be that someone today, right now, before it's too late. The greatest strength, Mrs. Park's calligraphy said, is seeing what needs to be seen. What do you need to see?